Today, we are talking all about leadership. What is leadership? What is good leadership? How do you develop your leadership skills? If you are new here and it's your first time watching a live with me, my name is Roxanne Watson. I am a Toronto-based entrepreneur and speaker. And we talk about purpose, we talk about entrepreneurship and business, we talk about personal growth and development, because 2020 is going to be the year that all those things we said we were going to do in 2019, 2018, 2017, whatever, we're going to start taking action and accomplishing them. It's interesting because when I look at leadership, I think every single person is a leader, all of us. I don't care if you're a business owner or not. It doesn't matter if you think you're a leader or not, you are. If anyone is looking at you and following your example, or if anyone looks up to you, or if anyone is seeing what you're doing and kind of emulating that, or even gaining encouragement or motivation, inspiration from that, you are a leader. Some of you have younger siblings, you're a leader for them. Some of you, there might be people in your workplace that you work with that actually look up to you. They might not tell you, but they admire how you do your work, they admire what you do. Anyone can be a leader, but what does it take to be a good leader? A great leader? Comment below, what do you think a good leader is? For me, when I think about leadership, great leadership, there's one thing that I feel really sets a lot of great leaders apart. And of course, there's a lot of skills that you can learn over the course of your life, your career, that can make you a better leader if that's what you choose to do. But I feel like if you don't have integrity, to me, a good leader has integrity, because there are gonna come times when you're in different positions where you can choose A or you can choose B. And a person who isn't in integrity is always going to choose the one that suits them the best. They're not thinking about the big picture. They're not thinking about how their decision affects other people or their family or their organization. They're not thinking about that. They're just thinking about, how can I gain from this? That's why a lot of times you'll have people that do like really shady things, like under the table kind of things, because all they're thinking about is themselves. How much money can they make from it? How much status can they get from it? Like things like that. Like what can they get from it? Whereas to me, a great leader doesn't just think about themselves and how they benefit. They're usually thinking about the people around them, right? They're thinking about their family. They're thinking about their coworkers, or if they're an entrepreneur or business owner, they're thinking about their employees, their staff. Like, how does this decision affect them, right? You can't be a great leader if you don't have integrity, because there's always going to come a time in your life where you're going to be challenged. And sometimes it's behind closed doors. It's where people aren't watching. No one's going to know if you did the right thing or not. It's just you and God, right? And that's when the rubber really meets the road. Like, who are you behind closed doors? Who are you when no one's watching? When no one can hold you accountable? When no one can give you that slap on the wrist, when there doesn't seem to be any immediate consequences? What do you do? Who do you become then? Are you still that great person, that great leader? Or do you kind of flip it and do shady things because no one's actually watching? No one's there to hold you accountable. So what are some qualities that you've seen in leaders that you admire? The good leader, the things that he asks or she asks for in a person are the things they are willing to give in return. I wouldn't ask any of my staff to do anything I wouldn't do myself. It's like, I don't know if any of you have had managers, those annoying kind of managers where they're always telling you, oh, do this, do that. And part of the reason why they're telling you to do it is because they really don't want to do it, and they would never do it if someone asked them to do it. And in the back of their mind, they're thinking, you know, I'm too good to do that, so let me give it to so-and-so, because they have a position of power. And I think that's another key thing about a great leader. A great leader is not going to use their power to hold down other people. A great leader is not going to use their power to stifle other people, or bring down another person, or use the power and the resources and like the clout that they have as like leverage over a person who doesn't have as much, in a sense. You know, like I see a true leader as someone who uses their power, their leverage, their platform, all of that stuff to uplift people and to make the collective better, as opposed to just focusing on themselves and people like them. They're thinking about how their status and the things that they have can help others. So if you have a boss, for example, who you just don't like how they run their business. Like, I'll give you an example because you guys know how I do this. I always give examples. There was a time back in the day when I was working independently for her. So I was she's a small business owner. It wasn't like a big corporation with like tons of people who have their different jobs. She was pretty much doing everything. So if I had some free time and I could assist her a little bit, I had no problem doing that. But unfortunately, she saw that, and instead of recognizing that I was doing that out of kindness, she started expecting it all the time. So when I finally, one day, it just so happened that I could not help her, she went on to tell me that, you know, this is part of the reason why I brought you on. I need the extra help and da-da-da-da-da. I had to explain to her that I understand you need the extra help, but my job is very clear, and that stuff that I do for you is extra. You don't pay me for that. I do it out of the kindness of my heart. So if you need someone to do that, you either A, have to pay me for it, or get someone else to do it, because you can't expect me to do it for you all the time. That's another thing. You have to be confident enough to lay down the standards that you expect for yourself when it comes to people treating you, talking to you a certain way, because once people do certain things with you and you let it slide all the time, they're gonna think they can always do that. And at the end of the day, you can't really blame them for constantly treating you this way, because you're allowing them to. You're not stepping up and telling them, listen, you can't do that. Like, I can't function in this environment with you if you continue to treat me the way you're treating me. And then it's a decision that they have to make. Are they gonna continue to do that and risk losing you, or are they gonna change, right? That's a whole other topic. But anyway, This leads to the moment when I ended up basically quitting, because there was some stuff going on with the pay. Some of the paperwork just wasn't lining up, and I went back and I was checking everything, and I came to her and I said, hey, this is what I noticed. Boom, showed it to her. And she didn't take too kindly to the fact that I was going back and checking everything, but I have 100% rights on going back to make sure that everything that we've been doing is kosher and it's up to par. She didn't see it that way. And we started talking about it or whatever, and this is a conversation that we ended up having on the phone, because at first she started texting me all of these things. And I said, yeah, in my mind I'm thinking, this is not a texting kind of conversation. So I call her, she answers the phone, and we're going back and forth. And we're not arguing, it's not an argument, but we're just not seeing eye to eye. At the end of it, we come off the phone. I think everything's fine because she didn't address anything that she was feeling on the phone. And then I get this text message basically saying that, you know, she can't handle, something like this insubordination, and I'm your boss and you need to do what I tell you to do, basically is what she's saying. The thing is, a good leader recognizes that just because you're someone's boss, it does not give you the right to treat them like dirt. Because I know that people like that, people who treat people that way, if someone turned around and did that to them, they would not like it. And they wouldn't care who that person was. So to give people this excuse that because I'm your boss, because I have an advantage over you, I'm allowed to treat you a certain way, no, they're not. So she basically was saying that she was gonna put me on some kind of probation or something like that, because of the fact that I brought up these things that were bothering me, how she was talking to me, how she was behaving. And in her eyes, I'm just supposed to take it. I'm not supposed to say anything about it because she's the boss. And I don't believe that. So for that reason, she's like, oh, I'm gonna put you on probation and blah, blah, blah. And I just simply looked at her. No, it was a text. So I simply just texted her back and I said, you know what? If you believe that because you're the boss, you're allowed to treat people poorly, then that's your belief and you can stick by it. But I can just tell you this right now. If you continue to treat people the way you're treating them, you're not gonna have anybody around you. You're gonna look to your left and you're gonna look to your right, and you're gonna wonder why you don't have support. It's because of how you're treating people. You're taking them for granted. They're doing extra above what they need to do, and then when they stop or they can't do it, or they talk to you about how you're treating them, you have this ego about how you believe you have the right to be rude to people or to talk down to a person because you're their boss. So I told her, instead of the probation, just consider this my 2 weeks notice because I quit. Because I knew at that moment that if I took the probation, this was basically an ultimatum she was giving me, and I don't do good with ultimatums. You have to understand that sometimes people are gonna put you in a corner, and this is where their true colors will show, but also your true colors will show too. And I didn't have to be rude to her. I didn't have to treat her poorly the way she was treating me, but I let her know very clearly and professionally that if this is the way she's gonna choose, if this is the style of leadership that she's gonna choose, then I cannot work with her any longer. And I quit. I gave her my 2 weeks notice and I quit. And some of you may be in that same position where you're not being treated right at work. You do what you're supposed to do. And remember, this is for those people who do their work, okay? You're not coming in late. You're not constantly off, constantly sick, taking all these breaks that you don't need. When you come at work, you're working. You're getting stuff done. This is the person I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the lazy person who complains about everything at work, but yet they're late all the time. They're not giving 100%. They're slacking off when they should be working. They're, watching YouTube or scrolling through social media. You're not actually giving your full effort, I'm not talking to those people. But if you're that person who gives more, than you know that you even need to give and you're being taken advantage of, the first thing I always do, because a lot of businesses and corporations, you have a contract and it clearly states what your job entails. And if you notice that you're doing things that are not a part of your job and you're being taken for granted for it, you look and you go back and you have a sit down with your boss and you explain to them that, you know what, I've been doing this for years, I've been going above and beyond, and this particular thing that I do all the time is not a part of my job description, but I do it because I'm a team player. I'm here for the organization, right? I want to see this business flourish and I want to be a part of its future. But I feel like I'm being taken for granted because this particular thing that I do all the time is not something that I have to do. And yet my manager or my supervisor will give me slack if I don't do it, when in reality it's not something I'm being paid for, right? So everybody should be compensated, because I know one thing, your boss, your manager, they weren't gonna show up at work if they weren't getting paid. So why are they expecting you to do work if you're not getting paid for it? There are many different leadership styles, people, and I think it's important that you work with people that their leadership style resonates with who you are and what you stand for and what you believe. And don't be afraid to walk away. You have to understand, like, I'm not telling you to quit your job. I'm not telling you this because you know you and you know your situation better than me, but you have to be confident and ready that there will be a time in your life. It's gonna happen to everybody. If it hasn't happened to you yet, prepare for it, because it's gonna happen. There's gonna come a moment in your life where you are going to have to walk away from something. In order for people to treat you the way you deserve to be treated, you have to walk away. I've walked away from relationships, I've walked away from friendships, I've walked away from working partnerships and business relationships because of how people treat me. And if you continue to let them treat you that way, they will continue to treat you that way. It will never get better. They're not going to change. If you have any more questions, if you have any comments, and if you have any suggestions for next week's live, go ahead and comment below in the chat. I am happy to answer them and happy to connect with you guys as much as I can here. And yeah, just keep being awesome, keep being great, because you guys know this. You're blessed, you're amazing. You're not only human. You are a spirit being having a human experience, and you are divinely created for amazing things. And it's about time that you step into that and stop acting small, stop being small, stop expecting small. Expect big things. Challenge yourself. Challenge the people around you. You got this.